Elias wiped his hands on his apron and looked around the quiet food stall. The city was sleeping, but the lights from the floating towers above painted the streets in soft colors. Most of the streets were empty at this late hour. He liked it like this, peaceful and calm, with only the soft hum of the city in the background. He could clean, cook, and think without anyone asking for anything. Suddenly, a small shadow appeared at the edge of the light. Elias squinted. It looked like a little creature, but it wasn't any kind of animal he knew. Its scales shimmered softly under the lamp, a mix of green and gold, and its tiny wings fluttered nervously. A little dragon. A real dragon, small enough to fit in his hands but alive and real. The dragon didn't roar or try to fly away. It just stood there looking at him with wide round eyes. In its tiny claws, it held something wrapped in a leaf. Elias noticed it was vegetables, fresh, green, and carefully packed. The little dragon stepped closer, tilting its head like it was asking a question. Elias swallowed. "What do you want?" he asked softly. His voice sounded strange to his own ears. Dragons were supposed to be fierce and dangerous. Yet this one seemed small, fragile, and afraid. The dragon moved its little wings as if to keep its balance, then made a soft, almost human-like sound. A small collar on its neck glowed faintly. Elias realized it was a translator device, something that could turn its thoughts into words he could understand. This is all I have," the dragon said, its voice tiny and trembling. "Please, my mother cannot wake." Elias felt his heart skip a beat. He had never seen a dragon in his life, let alone one asking for help. And now it spoke like a human. The words made his chest tighten. "Your mother cannot wake?" he repeated. "What do you mean?" The dragon held out the vegetables, shaking slightly. These can help her. Please, human, please." Elias stared at the bundle. Simple vegetables. Ordinary leaves and roots. But the way the dragon held them, with such hope and trust, made him realize something important. This little creature had nothing else in the world. Nothing but these vegetables, and him. He crouched down to meet its eyes. I can try," he said. His hands shook slightly, but he forced a smile. "I don't know if I can help, but I'll do my best." The little dragon tilted its head again, then blinked slowly. Its eyes seemed to shine with a strange mix of fear and relief. Elias felt an unexpected warmth in his chest. He had faced hungry customers, angry city guards, and even minor disasters in his kitchen. But nothing had ever felt like this. Nothing where the weight of someone else's life depended on his choice. Elias stood up and gestured to the small creature. "Come on. Let's go somewhere quiet. We can figure this out." The dragon hesitated. Its wings twitched nervously. But then it stepped forward, placing the bundle carefully in Elias's hands. Its tiny claws brushed his skin, and Elias felt a strange, gentle energy pass between them. He had heard stories of dragons bonding with humans. Maybe this was that moment. As they walked through the silent streets, Elias couldn't help but notice how different the city felt at night. Without the noise and crowds, he could see the floating towers clearly, each one glowing like a star. And above him, the moon hung low, casting a silver light on the dragon's scales. The colors glimmered beautifully like they were alive. You're brave," Elias said quietly. "I don't know what I'll do, but I promise. I'll try." The dragon made a soft sound, almost like a sigh, and flapped its wings once. It seemed to understand even without words. Elias could tell that it had waited a long time to find someone willing to help. Someone who would not be afraid. By the time they reached the back of his stall, Elias had made a decision. He would go wherever the dragon led him, do whatever he could, and maybe, just maybe, save its mother. The little dragon sat quietly in the corner, watching him as he packed his cooking tools and a few supplies. Its tiny chest rose and fell as it breathed, and Elias noticed how fragile it looked. Yet despite its size, there was something strong inside, something that had carried hope all this way. For the first time in his life, Elias felt like he wasn't just a chef anymore. He felt like a guardian, someone who had been chosen for a purpose bigger than himself. And he wasn't sure if he was ready, but he knew he had to try. The city slept on, unaware that a small dragon had chosen a human chef to save a life. And in that quiet night, under the glow of towers and moonlight, a bond began that would change both their lives forever. Elias followed the little dragon out of the quiet city streets. The moonlight guided them as they walked toward the edge of the floating towers. The air grew colder and a thin mist curled around the stone paths. Elias tightened his coat around him and glanced at the dragon. Its wings were folded neatly, and it walked with surprising balance, carrying itself as if it had always moved this way. Where are we going? Elias asked. The dragon didn't speak at first. It looked back at him with its wide eyes, then spread its tiny wings and pointed toward the cliffs that rose sharply into the night sky. Jagged stones, frozen waterfalls, and glowing crystals formed a path that looked dangerous for humans. But the dragon moved confidently, hopping from rock to rock, showing him the safest route. Elias took a deep breath. "All right. I trust you," he said, stepping carefully. Every few steps, he slipped slightly on the icy stones. The dragon would flap its wings and make a small sound, almost like a warning, guiding him forward. As they climbed higher, the city below became smaller. The floating towers looked like tiny lights on a distant hill. The wind grew stronger, whipping around the cliffs and rattling the rocks. Elias shivered, but he focused on the dragon. The little creature's determination made him feel braver than he had in years. "You're really strong," Elias said softly. "Even though you're small, you carry a lot." The dragon tilted its head, then flapped its wings once as if to answer, "I must. She depends on me." Elias nodded, feeling the weight of the dragon's words. He realized that dragons weren't just creatures of legend. They had families, lives, and struggles just like humans. And here he was, a simple chef being trusted to help save one of them. After a long climb, they reached a narrow ledge. A soft glow came from a hidden cave at the edge. The dragon paused and looked back at Elias. It chirped quietly, then flew a few feet ahead to show him the entrance. Inside the cave, the air was warmer, filled with the scent of herbs and something else. Something Elias couldn't recognize. The walls glimmered with crystals that cast a soft, golden light across the space. And there, lying on a bed of soft moss and leaves, was the dragon mother. She was enormous, her scales a deep, shimmering green. Her eyes were closed and she barely moved. Elias felt his heart tighten. The creature looked beautiful but fragile. Even a small breath from her chest seemed like an effort. The little dragon stepped closer to her side, lowering its head. "Mother, please eat this. Please wake," it said. Its voice trembled, small and full of fear. Elias looked at the vegetables the hatchling carried. They were ordinary yet carefully chosen. The dragon had collected them for a reason. He could sense it. He knelt beside them, feeling unsure. I don't know if this will work," he said softly. "But I'll do what I can." He examined the mother dragon gently. Her breathing was weak but steady. He noticed the leaves and herbs scattered near her. "She's not hurt, she's sick. Something in her food, it must have poisoned her," he murmured. The little dragon's eyes widened. "Poison? But she cannot eat anything from the cliffs. Only these vegetables," it said. Elias nodded slowly. He realized why she hadn't eaten anything in days. The food she could safely consume had grown only in certain places and it was rare. He had no medicines for dragons, no machines that could help. But he did have something humans understood well: cooking. He began to work carefully, washing the vegetables in a small stream of clean water that trickled into the cave. He chopped and mixed them, adding herbs he had brought from the city. He cooked them over a small flame, careful not to burn anything. The smell was earthy and fresh, filling the cave with warmth. The little dragon watched silently, its small wings tucked close. Every now and then, it would chirp softly, encouraging him. Elias smiled faintly. He had cooked for kings, for festivals, for hungry city streets, but never like this. Never with someone's life depending entirely on his hands. Finally, the food was ready. Elias carefully placed it near the mother dragon's mouth. The hatchling nudged her gently, urging her to eat. At first she did not move. Then slowly she sniffed the food. A small, shaky breath escaped her nostrils and her eyes flickered open. Elias held his breath. The dragon mother blinked, her golden eyes meeting his. For a moment it was as if she was unsure, testing him, studying him. Then she lowered her head and ate. The little dragon let out a soft, happy chirp, hopping closer. Elias felt tears sting his eyes. It worked. She was waking. She was alive. The mother dragon's breathing became stronger, and her eyes glowed softly in the cave light. She lifted her massive head, looking at Elias. Though she could not speak, he felt a wave of gratitude and trust radiate from her. Elias leaned back, exhausted but happy. The little dragon curled next to him, wings folding over itself. "You did it, you saved her," it whispered. Elias smiled. "We did it, together." Outside, the wind howled gently over the cliffs, but inside the cave there was warmth, life, and hope. Elias realized that night that being human meant more than just surviving. Sometimes, it meant helping others, even creatures as magnificent and strange as dragons. And for the first time he felt like his cooking, his skills, and his heart had a true purpose. The little dragon watched its mother, then looked at Elias with eyes full of trust. Elias knew the journey was only beginning, but for now they had won a small, precious victory. Elias watched the dragon mother slowly regain strength. Her chest rose and fell steadily now, and her golden eyes followed every movement. The little dragon chirped happily and nuzzled her side. Elias smiled faintly, but he knew their work wasn't done. She was awake, yes, but she was still weak. Without proper care she could grow ill again. He looked at the vegetables he had cooked. They had helped her recover a little, but he could see she needed more. Something stronger, something nutritious that could rebuild her energy. He had no idea what exactly dragons ate to heal themselves completely, but humans had their own ways of helping the sick. Cooking was more than flavor, it could nourish, restore, and give strength. Elias examined the cave. Crystal walls glimmered faintly, reflecting the glow of a small fire he had made. The dragon mother lay on moss and leaves, her body enormous yet graceful. The little dragon curled near her, watching Elias intently. He could feel its hope, its trust, and it made him more determined. He began to work carefully, thinking through each step. First, he boiled the vegetables to soften them, then mashed them into a thick paste. He added herbs he had brought from the city, calming herbs, energizing herbs, and even a few rare spices known to humans for their healing properties. He stirred slowly, imagining what it might taste like if he were hungry and weak. The little dragon watched silently, occasionally chirping, almost like it was encouraging him. Elias smiled softly. "I know it's strange," he said, "but you have to trust me. I've helped humans this way before. Maybe I can help your mother too." When the food was ready, Elias carried it carefully to the mother dragon. She turned her head toward him, blinking slowly. The little dragon nudged her gently, urging her to eat. Hesitantly, she opened her massive jaws and accepted the meal. Elias stayed back watching. He could see her strength returning bit by bit. Her breathing became steadier, her eyes brighter. She nuzzled the little dragon and a soft, low rumble came from her throat, almost like a purr. The sound made Elias's chest feel warm. "Good," he whispered. "That's it. Keep going." He realized that dragons, unlike humans, had different needs. Their bodies were stronger in some ways, fragile in others. One wrong bite could make them sick again. He carefully chopped the remaining vegetables, mixing them with water from the stream that ran through the cave. He created a simple broth, letting it cool to the right temperature before offering it. The little dragon tasted the broth first, chirping happily. Encouraged, it nudged its mother again. She leaned forward slowly, then drank a little. Elias watched as her body seemed to relax further. Her tail twitched slightly, her wings shifted, and her head lifted higher. "You're getting stronger," Elias said softly, almost to himself. "You're going to be fine." 4 hours he prepared food, observing the mother dragon's responses. He adjusted the flavors, tested the temperature, and even added tiny amounts of herbs to calm her. Each time she ate, he could see her energy return. She no longer struggled to move. Her eyes had a clear shine, and the tension in her body faded. The little dragon chirped with excitement, hopping from foot to foot. Elias laughed softly. He had never seen a creature so expressive, so full of joy. It reminded him why he had chosen to help. This wasn't just about saving a dragon, it was about hope, trust, and doing what was right. By morning, the dragon mother was sitting up. Her massive wings stretched carefully, testing the air. She let out a long, low hum that echoed through the cave. Elias felt it in his chest, a vibration that was both powerful and gentle. The little dragon flapped its wings and chirped repeatedly, clearly celebrating the success. Elias wiped sweat from his forehead and leaned against a rock. He felt exhausted but happy. He realized something important. Humans were not the strongest creatures in the galaxy. But their greatest strength was their mind, their creativity, and their care. They could help, heal, and build trust where others might fail. The dragon mother slowly approached him, lowering her massive head close to his. Elias froze for a moment, unsure of what to do. But then he saw it, gratitude, trust, and respect shining in her golden eyes. He reached out carefully, placing a hand on her scaled snout. The dragon's warmth was surprising, almost like a gentle fire, and it made him smile. The little dragon chirped, hopping onto his shoulder. Elias laughed softly. "You two are something else," he said. "I'm glad I could help." Outside the cave, the sun began to rise over the floating cliffs. Its light reflected off the crystals, filling the space with soft gold and pink. The world looked peaceful, yet alive with possibilities. Elias realized that this small act of kindness could mean much more than he had imagined. He had come to the cliffs to help one dragon. But in doing so, he had built a connection that could change everything. Humans, dragons, and the strange alien city below could learn something important. Trust, care, and courage could bridge any divide. The mother dragon finally lowered her head, resting comfortably. The little dragon curled near her, wings folded. Elias stood back watching them. He felt proud, not because he had done something extraordinary, but because he had chosen to care when it mattered most. For the first time, he understood that humans were not just small and fragile. They could make a difference in ways no one expected, even in a world full of creatures much larger, stronger, and stranger than themselves. And with that thought, Elias smiled, ready for whatever the next part of this journey would bring. By the time Elias, the little dragon, and the mother dragon began the descent from the cliffs, the city below was starting to wake. The floating towers glowed softly in the morning light, and the streets, which had seemed empty the night before, now hummed with activity. People were moving about, merchants setting up stalls, and the distant hum of airships filled the sky. Elias paused on a narrow ledge to look down. His chest tightened. He had never imagined that the dragons would follow him back to the city. The mother dragon's massive wings stretched wide, and she flapped slowly, carrying herself carefully. The little dragon chirped excitedly, flying around him in small circles. "Careful," Elias called, trying to keep his voice calm. "The city isn't used to dragons, we need to be careful." But the mother dragon didn't roar or attack. She moved with grace, almost silently. It was clear she trusted Elias, and in some small way the city would see that too. As they descended, some early risers noticed them. People froze, staring at the enormous creature gliding down toward the streets. Some shouted warnings, others ran for cover. But the mother dragon landed softly in a quiet square, folding her wings carefully. The little dragon flew down to Elias's shoulder, chirping happily. Elias took a deep breath. "All right, here we go." He stepped forward, approaching the mother dragon. He wanted the city to see what humans could do, not through fighting or fear but through care. He began speaking to the small crowd that had gathered, using a calm, clear voice. "She is not here to hurt anyone," he said. "She is sick. I helped her because she needed it. She is a creature like any of us, deserving care." The crowd murmured. Some people whispered to each other. Aliens had long told stories of dragons as dangerous monsters. To see one so calm, so gentle, and following a human's guidance was new. The little dragon chirped and flew in small loops, drawing attention. The crowd's fear began to turn into curiosity. Children stepped forward cautiously, pointing at the glimmering scales of the mother dragon. Vendors paused, their hands frozen over baskets of goods. Elias smiled softly. "We can all learn from this," he continued. "Humans, dragons, and others, we all share this world. Caring for each other is stronger than fear. Healing is stronger than fighting." For the first time the city seemed to pause. The mother dragon lowered her massive head, looking at the people, then back at Elias. She gave a soft rumble, almost like a purr. The little dragon chirped happily. Some of the city leaders stepped forward hesitantly. They were dressed in long robes, adorned with symbols of power. This is unusual," one said carefully. "Dragons do not approach humans. Why is she here?" Elias took a deep breath. "She came because her daughter needed help. I helped her. That is all. There is no trick, no danger, just trust." The leader studied him for a long moment. Then slowly he nodded. Others followed. Slowly the crowd began to relax. Fear turned into fascination. People whispered about how a simple human chef had tamed fear with kindness. Children crept closer to the little dragon. They reached out with small hands, and the dragon allowed them to touch its wings lightly. Laughter and joy replaced the earlier fear. Parents smiled, and even the city guards lowered their weapons. Elias felt a warmth in his chest. Humans were small, he thought, compared to dragons. And yet, here they were, showing strength in a way that no weapon could match. By caring, by healing, they had bridged a gap that had existed for generations. The mother dragon lifted her head higher and spread her wings. The sunlight caught on her scales, creating colors like fire and gold. She let out a soft hum, a signal to the little dragon, who chirped in response. It was a message of trust and peace. Elias stepped back, letting the dragons take the focus. He could see the city slowly beginning to understand. Humans were not weak. Humans could inspire, heal, and guide, even creatures as powerful as dragons. Merchants returned to their stalls, smiling nervously. Children began pointing at the sky as the dragons flapped gently over the city. The crowd watched in awe, realizing that the city had witnessed something unusual, something beautiful. The little dragon flew down to Elias again, landing lightly on his shoulder. "We did it," Elias whispered, feeling proud. "We showed them that kindness works." The mother dragon lowered herself carefully, circling the square. Her presence was calm yet commanding. People no longer feared her, they respected her. And through Elias, they understood that humans had a role in the world that was much greater than anyone had thought. As the sun rose higher, casting golden light over the towers and streets, Elias realized that this was only the beginning. The city would remember this day. Humans, dragons, and all creatures could live together. Trust, courage, and care could change the world. And for Elias, it was more than a lesson for the city, it was a lesson for himself. Humans could be small, yes, but their hearts and minds could reach heights no wings could match. The little dragon chirped again and Elias laughed softly. Together, they watched the mother dragon soar slowly into the morning sky, wings catching the sunlight. The city looked peaceful, alive, and full of hope. Elias smiled. For the first time he felt like humans truly had a place in a world full of wonders. Days passed since the mother dragon had returned to full strength. Elias's small food stall had become a place of quiet wonder. Every morning, people came not only for his cooking but to see the little dragon that had started it all. The dragon perched on his shoulder, wings folded neatly, watching him chop vegetables, stir soups, and serve meals. The city had changed. Aliens and humans no longer whispered fearful tales about dragons. Instead, they told stories of Elias, the human chef who had healed one with nothing but vegetables, herbs, and care. Children followed him around, laughing and pointing at the little dragon. Even the city leaders visited quietly, curious to see how humans and dragons could live together in peace. One morning, Elias noticed movement in the sky. The mother dragon, fully healed and powerful again, circled above the city, shining in the sunlight. Behind her, smaller dragons appeared, some carrying fruits, others swooping low to see the streets. The city had never seen anything like this. People paused in awe, mouths open. The little dragon chirped excitedly and nudged Elias. "They've come to see us," he whispered, understanding the meaning. The dragons weren't threatening, they were showing respect. They were showing that humans mattered. Elias smiled and called to the crowd. "See, they mean no harm. They are our friends now." The crowd hesitated at first, then slowly began to cheer. Children waved, adults clapped, and even the city guards lowered their weapons. The dragons swooped gracefully, landing carefully in the open squares, folding their wings. The mother dragon knelt down near Elias, letting him brush a hand along her scales. She rumbled softly, a sound of trust and peace. Elias realized something important. Humans were small, yes, but their courage, care, and intelligence had created a bridge between species. They didn't need to fight. They didn't need to threaten. By showing compassion, they had gained something far greater: respect, trust, and friendship. The little dragon flew down to Elias's shoulder and chirped again. He laughed softly. "You've done well," he said. "You've helped more than just your mother. You've helped everyone." People began approaching the dragons carefully. Children touched their scales lightly. Merchants offered fruits and treats. The city leaders nodded in approval. Everyone was learning that humans, dragons, and aliens could live together if they respected one another. That evening, Elias cooked a special meal for the dragons. He mixed fresh vegetables with fruits and herbs, creating dishes that smelled like sunlight and earth. The little dragon tasted each dish first, chirping happily. The mother dragon leaned down to eat, and Elias could see the joy in her eyes. As the sun set, the dragons began to leave the city, returning to the cliffs. But the little dragon stayed close to Elias. It perched on his shoulder, wings folded, eyes shining with trust. Elias smiled, realizing that this bond would last a lifetime. The city now looked different to him. Streets that had once seemed ordinary were alive with possibility. The towers, glowing in the evening light, no longer seemed distant. They felt connected to everything. Humans could touch this world, influence it, and create hope where there was fear. Elias felt proud not because he had done something heroic, but because he had chosen to care. A simple act, feeding and helping a dragon, had grown into something far greater. Humans had reminded everyone, dragons and aliens alike, that kindness and intelligence could change the world. The little dragon chirped once more, nuzzling Elias's cheek. He laughed and held it close. "We'll take care of each other," he whispered. "Always." From the cliffs above, the mother dragon let out a low hum, calling to the smaller dragons in the distance. The message was clear: Trust humans, respect them, and live together. Elias watched as they soared into the sky, wings glinting in the last light of day. That night, as he closed his stall, Elias looked up at the stars. He thought about the journey he had taken, from a quiet night with a small dragon clutching vegetables to the city learning that humans could make a difference. He realized that being human was not about strength or size. It was about heart, intelligence, and courage. And sometimes that was enough to change the world. The little dragon curled up next to him and he felt its warmth. Elias smiled, knowing that tomorrow and every day after, they would continue to build a world where humans, dragons, and aliens could live together in peace. And for the first time, Elias understood something beautiful. Sometimes the smallest acts of care could leave the largest marks on the world.